God damn it.
What the fuck?
Oh! Holy shit!
What's going on, guys? Big Al's Bike and Auto here, coming at you today with another Copart buy. Now, if you watched the previous video to this one, you probably had a hint at this because there was 4 cars. I told you guys we took that Copart walk that I bought one of them, and I want to make it a surprise, and here it is. And a lot of you, there was kind of split down the middle. You had a lot of people thinking I bought the LeSabre, the 2000 Buick LeSabre, the silver one, and you had the other half of people thinking I bought the Century. Now, I was interested in both. I also bid on the Copart Malibu, excuse me, the, what the heck is it, the AT&T Malibu. And bid one too high on that. It went for like 600 and change. So I let that thing go because I saw them for 1500 the time I shipped it to Miami, and if there's any issues with it, the profit would have been too little. So I didn't buy that. The LeSabre, the morning of the auction, when I went to place a pre-bid, the LeSabre was already at like 600 bucks. And I could buy one of those on Craigslist locally for around 1200 for a really clean one with even lower miles. So, because those aren't very uncommon. So that thing right away, there was no money left in that. And that left the Century. And the Century I ended up getting for 325 bucks. Now when you tack on the Copart fees and all that baloney, so after all the fees and everything else, it was $559. So not bad. I am going to title this in my name because I'm planning on keeping this. We'll see. This is one of those cars where I'm going to get it sorted out. It doesn't really need anything mechanically as far as I can tell. I've already driven it for a good few miles. I actually had this shipped to my mechanic shop because I wasn't home, and the last time we had the van shipped here, it turned into a catastrophe because they needed to have someone here to sign for it. So I had it shipped to the shop, they signed for it, and when I got down over there later in the day, you know, it started right up. AC's cold. But again, we tested this car on video in the last video at Copart. But I just drove it home a few miles and didn't have any issues with it, aside from the fact that that spare tire obviously needs to go. It's affecting the ride a little bit, but it seemed to be like wanting to cut out a little bit at times. But when the gas gauge is a little wonky on it, so when I pulled into a gas station, I took off the gas cap. You could smell it's definitely got old gas in it. So I filled it up as much as I could with 93. Maybe I'll throw some fuel stabilizer in there later. But I mean, it never stalled out. It's strong. It runs really good, just like it did at the auction. But this car is probably sitting for a bit before it was donated. The miles are actual to 46,000 miles. The odometer does spin. We did the video of the van. That exact same Jeep drove by right at the start of the video. It was about the same time of day. How about that, huh? So I'm like, am I having a deja vu moment here or what? So I'm just gonna show you guys the car quick, and then we're gonna go and see if we can get a new tire for this today because I really don't like this. What I didn't realize, and I'm glad to see it's the case, when I looked at this car at auction, I thought that it might have all black tires. Turns out it has white walls all around, and they're all brand new. So I just need to buy one new white wall tire, and what the heck is going on here? I just have to buy one new white wall tire, and this thing will be all set. I have I'm not sure if I showed you guys in the video, but the original rim, like the steely wheel here, is in the trunk. And I have to check actually and see if the door trim's in there. It came off and that tire blew out. But as I pointed out in the video, there's a few cosmetic issues. This fender, I think, was repainted at some point because it's not holding up well for the rest of the car. If I can source a fender online, the same color for cheap, I'll definitely change it. Little rust spot up here, it hasn't rotted through yet, so I'm gonna sand that down and, you know, whatever I gotta do to prevent it from rusting anymore, maybe a little bit of body filler or something and paint it up, just with some touch up. You know, a couple little spots need to be touched up like here, but overall, I look at the hood, for example, and pretty much the entire car, it's immaculate for a Buick Century. These weren't really babied quite as much as, say, the Roadmasters you find and stuff like that, because these were cheaper and these were economy cars, so people drove the hell out of them. So to find one in this condition still, I was definitely happy about that, especially the interior. And you can see this, remember at Copart, this wasn't like this, but somebody broke it. You can tell it was glued back on, but the glue was holding up when I looked at it because I was pressing all these buttons and never moved. But Now it's fallen off, but yeah, she's running and driving well. I'm very happy with it overall. It's really not in bad condition. For the money, you can't beat it for, you know, 500 and change. So again, we're gonna go in a minute and hopefully get a new tire for it today. I might have to order one because it's a white wall and I don't know how common the size is anymore. But we're gonna try. Go hit a couple tire shops, get a new white wall, throw the original rim back on, and then later on I'll hit probably some rubbing alcohol or something, get off all this, this when the tire blew out. And that's really all it needs done, to be honest. So let's go. I'm gonna go ahead and go look for that tire and we'll go from there. All right, so I just went tire shopping for a bit. Unfortunately, nobody had a white wall tire in stock today. So I didn't get that instant gratification of getting a brand new tire on the car today, getting that factory wheel back on. But I did go ahead and order a tire with my favorite tire shop in town. Brand new hand-cooked tire, white wall, so it'll match the rest. 75 bucks installed, not terrible. Could I find it cheaper? Probably, especially if I ordered it online, but just to get it done tomorrow. We were driving the car around for a good hour. You know, in Miami heat, in traffic, AC on, no issues at all. Runs fantastic. This car has the entire AC system changed out. You can see it's definitely an aftermarket compressor down there. I think this car, you can tell by the corrosion, was probably by the ocean. The dealer badge on the back indicates it's from Delray Beach, so it's probably a condo car, as they're often called down here in Florida, meaning that the person who owned it lived right on the ocean, so the car had salt air exposure. Because that's the only thing that explains all this upper rust. You know, there's a lot of rust in the surface areas of the car, but the body itself has no rust at all. So all these unfinished, unpainted areas get corroded, but the body, where you have a clear coat protecting the body, doesn't rust. So, and you look at the rims as well, same thing, unpainted surface, there's a lot of corrosion, and all the chrome is pitted. Same situation with my blue Trofeo. You guys have seen in my videos before. That was also a condo car. Because of that, same situation, has a lot of corrosion on the upper parts of the car, but no rot whatsoever. So it's a pretty typical thing down here in Florida. A lot of people think, oh, Florida car rust free. You don't get the kind of rust that makes your car undrivable. You get a lot of surface rust and a lot of pitting from these cars sitting out by the ocean. But again, you really can't complain at the price I paid for this car. And just seeing that it has a whole new AC system, got the compressor, and look, all the lines back here are nice and shiny and new. That's excellent. Love seeing that. The air is nice and cold in this car. So I think it may have some leaves or something caught up in the blower motor, because they keep blowing out of the air vents. But there's definitely some leaves they need to clean out of there, and that can be a fire hazard as well. So I do want to go ahead and take care of that soon. But what I'm doing right now, and I owe it to you guys for telling me this in the comments of my, I think it was my van video on the Escalade. The rubbing alcohol unfortunately did not work on those spots. However, I was able to get a lot of other stains and imperfections out of the paint that I might not otherwise have gotten out. Things that I've tried everything on before, and the rubbing alcohol trick definitely does work. So I appreciate those who recommended that. You see the pig spots are actually, they're starting to go away on their own. I don't know if the sun's just making them disappear, but they're almost not noticeable anymore. These ones down here are more prevalent, but you look up here and you can barely see them anymore. This used to be splattered. So I think I'm just gonna wait and see if they disappear on their own. It was a lot worse before, now I don't see them at all, which is weird. I'm not sure why it worked that way. I think the best recommendation I've seen for handling that would be wet sanding the truck, and I think you could use it anyway. You can see it's in great condition. The paint's excellent in this truck. There's no major imperfections, but it doesn't hurt. It'll make it look even better. But again, they've kind of just disappeared on their own. Maybe the Florida sun's just fading those little spots away. But it used to be a lot worse. This, even though I can live with this, because you have to be this close to the truck to see it. And you can see I also changed the mirror. I got one at the junkyard for 15 bucks. It's not an OEM one, it's a Chinese one, or I don't know what brand this is. I'm sure one of you knows. But it does have a little LED arrow in there like it's supposed to, except you don't see the outline for it like you did in the old mirror. I like to get an OEM one. And I got the scuff out of the the cover here. I buffed that out. I also, you see I got a plate delete from the front from a junkyard, and I fixed my wood trim on the inside. When I bought this truck, it was all intact, but over time it fell off. So I got some new wood trim pieces, and I changed my Bose speaker covers. Mine were all, they had that, it's very typical with these Escalades, these speaker covers, they get rusty. They get that brown appearance, and I found some clean ones at the junkyard, so I changed those out. So tell you what, this truck looks 10 times better than when I bought it. But back over here, the Century, sorry for sidetracking. And you'll notice the Riata's gone. Sold the Riata back to its owner, believe it or not, he missed it. And I was happy to see it go back to him. And I was also happy to see it go, because I paid a little too much for that car. It was kind of an impulse buy, and I got all my money back for it. I did do a little bit of work to it. No part changing, but I did the oil change and a coolant flush and serpentine belt, just dumb stuff. But I sold it back to him for the same price. So I got to have my fun with it for a while, but it's gone. And he always told me someday maybe I could buy it back again, but he kept calling me, wanted the car back, and I kind of wanted it out of here. So that's gone. Cavalier I also sold just this past weekend for 1,200 bucks. Made a whopping $50 profit on that car. I paid way too much from it from the Copart auction, because my other Cavalier and the Malibus have been selling for so much, but something happened with the market on those and nobody wanted it. So I finally sold it for $1,200. I made a $50 profit. At least I didn't lose money. So back to the Century after that big tangent I just went on. I'm using the rubbing alcohol, the trick that you guys showed me. I really appreciate that. To take off the marks from the tire blew out in this car. And I did a little test area right here and took it off in seconds. No issue at all. I just wanted to get a before and after. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of the remainder of this staining here on the side. All right, so I got lucky. Look what was in the trunk. I didn't, when I checked the trunk at Copart, I didn't look that deeply, but this is underneath the rim. So it is a little warped, but I figure with some heat I can bend this back into shape. So I don't have to worry about sourcing one of these trim pieces, because I have it. And you can see here's the after with the rubbing alcohol. It took all those marks from the spare tire that blew up off. This is the factory wheel that blew up. So tomorrow it's gonna have a new tire on it, and I have the center cap inside. How nice and clean that trunk is. Good luck finding a Century in this shape up in New England. You won't. All right, guys, so here is the Century day 2. As you know, it got delivered yesterday, and we did quite a few things on it, as I showed earlier in the video, and I did a few more things off camera. I'm gonna show that to you guys right now. I'm sure the first thing you already noticed, unless you're not very observant, is I've bought a new tire and put back the factory wheel. You know, when the car came in, it was on the donut, and the original wheel slash, well, what was a tire was in the trunk. And as I mentioned in the earlier clips, I'm gonna try to find, hopefully, a OEM fender in this color that, you know, that'd be cheaper. It may seem a little tedious to pull the whole fender off and everything, but it's pretty simple on these A bodies to change out a fender. And if I can find one in this color that has perfect paint, to me that's easier than trying to paint match and have a body shop paint a fender. It's going to match this paint job, which is now 25 years old, and who knows if they'll get it just right. So I'd rather just go find an OEM fender and get the result that you see over here. This original untouched fender, which is in perfect shape. I do want to, as I mentioned earlier, take care of this little rust spot here. My best guess would be to sand this down, you know, eliminate the cancer. Now, I'm sure the correct way, the absolute best way to do it would be to cut out the cancer, but I'm not gonna, that's out of my workmanship. So sand it down, you know, maybe a little bit of body filler if this is as deep as it looks, which it isn't that deep, but guys, tell me what you think the best way would be to go fixing this little rust spot. You know, obviously put a little bit, I could probably buy this color from Dr. Color Chip and just touch it up, throw a little clear coat on it. Again, it's a $600 car. I'm not going to spend $1,000 in body work. I do want to take care of these little corrosion spots on the doors. Same thing, sand it, paint it. Looks like this may have been painted before. These look very clean, but I could be wrong. So I haven't done, you know, I washed it last night. You can see what a difference. It got all the dirt off from Copart. The paint in this car is in phenomenal condition. I will be keeping it in my carport. I took off, there was a couple stickers back here that had lost anything that was on them. So I took those off. I left it, I thought this was pretty cool. You have the City of Deerfield Beach, you know, beach parking sticker from 2000. I thought that was neat. I left the Granny Support Our Troops sticker on. I re-glued on the window switch console here. You may remember it was hanging before. Otherwise, the car's been great. Again, I've been driving it around quite a bit. And especially, what a difference in the ride quality. Now, if the donut's off, it drives like a Buick should. It's very smooth, and it feels stable. It's all over the road because of the little donut. So that was worth every penny getting that tire for it. And you can see, reuse the original wheel. It is missing, unfortunately. I'm assuming it popped off when the previous owner had the blowout. We're missing this little ring here on the steel wheel. So I'm gonna have to source one of those. But if you come in here, everything inside's looking great. I haven't even vacuumed this car. This is how it came from Copart. It was really well maintained. It was a cream puff. I've got those original GM keys. I have 2 sets. And this was the keychain that was on it. Both of these were 46,153 miles. The AC comes and goes with its coldness. And it never gets too cold. It's kind of, you know, you can feel that it's cool, but it's not as cold as it should be for having a whole new system. I mean, it could just be low on Freon, but I'm looking at that new system, and I highly doubt that, unless maybe when they installed it, there's a small leak, they didn't tighten something up correctly. Anyway, that's the story with the Century for now. Again, a few little things I'm gonna do to it. Put the trim back on. Obviously gonna wipe the blue off on the tire. Maybe I can hopefully find that little ring that's supposed to go around that rim to make it complete. But a few little minor details to take care of. That silver LeSabre that you guys all wanted me to buy, I love that car. That thing was a cream puff, you know, minimal damage in the dash, otherwise looked real nice. But you know what? When you calculate the fees and the shipping and plus the unknown risk, because I never drove the car, for all we know, that transmission could have been junk. It's not uncommon for those newer Series 2 3800 cars to have some transmission problems. Not very common, but it is possible. And I showed you in that video, the transmission fluid was abnormally high and it was very pink. And when I've seen that in the past, usually it means someone dumped some Lucas in the transmission because it was slipping. So yeah, it was a donated car, so there's not as great of a chance of it being a hacked up, kind of, you know, run it through the auction, hope nobody knows this car is a dealer car, but there is a chance. Perhaps the person was trying to remedy the transmission and it was just giving them too many issues and they decided to just donate it. They didn't want to sell it with the failing transmission. But that car, I can buy that locally on Craigslist here in Miami. There's plenty of them and they're all, you know, under $2,000 for one in that condition. So why would I bother buying it from Copart? Because that thing was already up close to $1,000 and I didn't even see what it went for in the final bid. You know, that was just about 2 hours before the auction went live. So that car sold for retail, at least Craigslist retail. So wasn't worth it. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for the next one. And let me tell you this, I've got my eye on 2 more cars at Copart tomorrow. Both would be a flip. One's like a maybe flip. I'll give you a hint, I've owned one before and it was in the past 2 years. So it's somewhere on this channel as a re-uploaded video, it wasn't recent. And I didn't buy it from Copart, there's your hint. But there is one going through Copart, one owner donated, it's got a very rare transmission in it compared to what they usually have. So see if you can guess. And let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.